Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the PCN Podcast. It is your host, Cage, on episode 4, the Euros recap. I'm joined by Exile
Hello.
and Cazbon.
Hola.
And pretty much, like I said, this is just going to be a recap of the Euros. We're going to talk about uh, our pre-tourney predictions, who we thought would win, any favorites, underdogs. We're going to talk about the group stages, how that went, and obviously the round of 16, and obviously Italy's streak. To start though, uh, I'll ask you two first. Other than Netherlands and Italy, were there any big favorites to everyone?
Not to me. I mean, I felt like it was Netherlands and Italy might be able to eke it out. I was obviously wrong, which I'm comfortable with admitting. But yeah, no, I definitely thought that Italy and Netherlands were the teams to beat. But I thought Netherlands could go the whole distance.
Yeah, absolutely. I know everybody kept talking about Belgium, Belgium, Belgium. Um, I I didn't see it. I didn't think they were gonna go out in group stages. Um, but I did think that Spain would probably make a good run, or Croatia. But Netherlands and Italy, those are the players that win everything. All the cups, all the leagues for the past
Yeah.
year. So be tough to bet against them.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, like looking at it on paper, I didn't really focus on too many teams. Like I was just like, okay, we have Netherlands and Italy. There shouldn't really be any other factors. But looking back at all the rosters beforehand, I kind of went back and looked at three that like could have been good that kind of struggled, and it was Belgium, Spain, and Scotland. I think those teams with the players they had definitely could have made a run far. Like it wouldn't be a shock if those teams made it to like the semis or finals. Uh, but they didn't. Croatia also was one I had on my radar because as we've been playing FIFA, like the more BYOTs you see, you just see the foot sweats winning them a lot. So they're kind of like a little group of guys that I was keeping under my radar. But speaking of Croatia and the foot sweats, they topped their group. They absolutely killed it. I believe they went 5-1. They didn't lose a single game. Something big I thought from that group and from that team was how out of their 16 goals in the group stage, RVP and Evan Davids scored 15 of them. So, we always talk about Tails, and obviously Tails proved himself at Madrid and then went to Sporting and balled. But, we'll talk about those two, how good they're becoming.
Yeah.
well, go ahead, Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying yes.
No, me too. Yeah, that's what I was. I mean, honestly, like you just explained it. I mean, when those two combine for what all but one goal, I guess they're doing something right. I mean, what else are you supposed to say about them? That's incredible. And who's to say that Tails wasn't involved? I mean, I didn't see his assists and I didn't see his key passes. To be fair, but um, I'm sure he contributed to those goals as well. So
Oh yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. I did not play against them in the Euros. I did not uh see them really. I didn't have a chance to really watch any of the games that we didn't play in. But I can tell you that every BYOT I play in, I somehow end up in Messy Mike's group, so I always play against them. We're gonna have to get that looked at, by the way, XL. But I mean, the only other front three in the league that I would compare these guys to is the Real Madrid front three. When you've got three guys that can all dribble and take on 2 to 3 people on their own and make the precise pass and finish, it's very, very difficult. I mean, I remember one night playing against them, and we really were like dominating them for most of the game. And you just suddenly saw them. You could tell they said, "All right, guys, let's dial in," and they were just doing one time give and go triangles all the way up the field. They always know what the other ones are gonna do, um, because they've been playing together for so long. You know, it makes it to me though. The thing that helped them in Euros is you had a lot of teams that hadn't been together long. When
Mm.
you have back lines that aren't very organized, it makes them look much, much better. I didn't see the final, so I don't know how they looked up against Italy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can tell you just from my experience in BYOT, when we have better back lines, we tend to do very, very well against them. But when we don't, we just get decimated.
Yeah, and like I don't want to take away anything from the players around those guys. Like obviously, their whole team has to be good for them to do as good as they did. Obviously, they went to the final. Um, but just about that little group, like we see now, like Sporting had a good run in League One. After that, these guys are killing it in late night, and even here they got to the final. And me and UCAS had a little conversation about this earlier about their unconventional pro club style, the way they play because these guys were all a bunch of Ultimate Team players who were really good that came into the pro club scene, and now they majorly play pro clubs. Funny enough, but the way they play is a strong mix of the two. And granted, we have a lot of players in PCN, but just not I guess not pros, but as good as these guys. But watching them play, like they do some crazy stuff that you'd probably get yelled at by a couple other managers. Like I see them dribbling and they'd miss a one-time pass, and normally people in PCN that have been long would be like, "Oh, like why would you do that? I can't believe you missed that pass." Versus them would say, "Nice try, it's all right." And they'd also they fire from like 30 yards out, 40 yards out, and they scored these goals. I mean, granted they didn't win the whole thing. The fact that this relatively new bunch of guys got to the Euro final compared to a lot of other pro clubs players that have been around the scene for a while. I mean, I think that's just going to be a group to watch. Definitely, at least in League One for Sporting, to see how good they do. Um, but finishing off Group A, uh, the only real shocks were that Iceland made it through with a negative goal differential. Not to take away anything from Iceland, there's a DQ Legends that Perps brought in. Just another pro clubs team, top 100 team that Perps brought in to have fun. And Scotland had an early exit. If you guys got any feelings about that?
I
Personally,
mean,
I don't. Go ahead, Kaz.
so Scotland have a ton of names on their team, and it's one of those teams you look at and you say, all of these players, can be on really good teams. But when I just kind of saw the guys on the team together, it just didn't look like a well balanced team for me. Obviously, if you got Body in your offense, he could score from anywhere. He's a hell of a playmaker. But if you don't have the complete package we're starting to see in this league, because the skill gap is getting closer and closer and closer.
Yeah.
The top players aren't as far away from as many people as they used to be. So, so it's going to be tougher for them. And chemistry is a huge thing. Go back to Netherlands and Italy. One thing both those teams had was a ton of players that play together. So did Croatia. And look how far all these teams got. So,
Yeah. Scotland obviously the names they had. Obviously the former Ballon d'Or winner Dorsey, Ballon d'Orsey winner, Ballon d'Orsey winner Schmerda. Wow, that was a little
Ballon
bit.
d'Orsey, Schmerda
That
Pollo.
just
Yeah.
yeah. Obviously when you have a player that good, you expect not that guy would carry the team, but they obviously had Booch, a lot of guys around them. Um, it's not a team you thought would get grouped. I'll say that. So again, it just
Meh.
goes to show
I think it would. I
what.
mean, looking at this team, what did they score? 4 goals? How many goals
Yeah,
did
but
they
you don't
score?
think a team of that caliber doesn't get out of the group,
I don't know.
especially
Look
that.
at the roster. Like, I like the guys. Don't get me wrong. I like Booch. I like Stride. I like Polo. I like
But over a team
Schmerda.
like Iceland, like
But
that's a top 100
but
team that
look at the
doesn't play
names.
11.
Like, who's playing on this team? Who's playing as a team on this team? You tell me. You look at this roster and say that makes a good team. That's insane. I mean, Rio, Cozy, Scarata, Pepper Potts, Pete, all good players, right? CF Pete obviously probably hasn't played in PCN for some time now. I think maybe he came back for the LAFC season. I can't remember, but all these guys are good players, but looking at them as a group, that collection does not look good to me at all. I don't see it. I don't see it. Not even a little bit.
I mean, that's fair. It's just, a lot of the time you see names like that and you just have an expectation that they go through. But as we've discussed, especially in these tournaments that like this was a 2-week tournament, you don't really have time to like build chemistry or time for air at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, teams like that, like you can assemble what seem to be god squads of really good players across the league, but if they don't have chem, it's not going to work out. Obviously, that showed with Scotland. Um, talk about teams with chemistry though, and teams that just find it firing. In Group B, we have Ukraine, and they went on an undefeated run. And JDM who's a League Two co-manager, I believe, uh, he pretty much built a team full of League One or League Two players, and they killed their group. And that just goes to show, to me at least, I don't know about you guys, but how it's just going to be a reoccurring theme in this whole thing, how
Mm-hmm.
competitive PCN's getting as a whole. Like, not taking anything away from the players in their group or on that team, but now when you think League One or League Two players, you don't really like think of a team going undefeated, especially against other super league caliber players. But seeing that and you're seeing them go undefeated, you're like, damn, maybe the Super League players aren't only like the best players in the league; they're spread out. Um, what do you guys think?
I mean, I think looking at the team, I'll admittedly not. I don't know as many people on this team that I would used to know about League One, League Two players. But looking at a couple of the names, Golden Panda, SSJ Patito. Sorry if I'm terrible with Spanish. Uh, SSJ Petito. I've played
Don't say
against
it
him
again.
before and
What
played
are
with
you,
him,
what are you doing?
and he's a really good player. Um, but I honestly don't know the rest of the team. So Shadawu, he's been a CB around here for a while. His gamer checks changed so many times. I don't remember
It's the
the
Hound.
initial one.
It's the Hound.
It's the Hound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he used to be
But
Team Virgil.
you know, uh, that's what I like about the international tournaments. There's always this one team that goes out there and kills it that nobody was expecting,
Mm-hmm.
and it puts a lot of these guys on the map. Maybe some of these managers for the better league, the League One teams that are going to expect to win the championship, go after some of these guys because of how their team did.
Yeah.
Wait, Panda played? Golden Panda played? Oh, he had a goal. Good for him.
Yeah, he played DM.
Good job.
I think he made a position shift to like central midfield or like DM now.
Oh, really? That's good. Good. Probably
Yeah.
suits him better. Can't dribble out of bounds if you're in the middle of the field.
I knew it was coming.
Just kidding, Isco.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, how did he get roped into this team?
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand. Like, no offense to these guys, I just don't know when Isco would talk to any of them or like for what.
Yeah,
But,
that wasn't an indictment of their talent. I'm just, he's
yeah, it's just like how does like I don't see where they like they've
Yeah.
met before. Just knowing Isco.
yeah, no, and
I
he's a
saw
good
him
teammate. So.
I saw him put a free agent post at the very, very last minute.
Oh, okay.
And I hadn't seen him do anything before that. So I'm guessing, smart manager. Let me reach out to him, see what he says. How hard could it be if he says no? So
I mean, fairness to them. They won 5 games, drew 1, moved on, top of the group, 16 points. I don't want to take away from the team's success just because I look at the roster and don't particularly think that they'd be great. But hey, you know what? That's okay. It doesn't have to. I haven't seen half the guys play, to be fair. At least not recently. So that's awesome. Good for them. Kudos to Ukraine for showing out.
Yeah, and it just like I said, goes to show that there are a lot of good players still spread out on PCN that we don't see because Super League's kind of the eye of the league and what everyone watches. But I mean, like eKsiSLe, you found GOAT in League 2, right?
Yep.
And,
Yep.
Yeah, look at him now.
Yep. Plucked
So-
him. But I mean, he was team of the season in League 2 in a shortened season, so it's fair. But there are definite players that you can see in League 2, League 1 who have the ability to take that next step. But as Kaz was mentioning earlier tonight, it's just because that person could do it doesn't mean they do, and doesn't mean that they're going to
Yeah.
excel in doing so. So I mean, it's a tough gamble. I mean, when I got GOAT, it was for Nigeria when AFCON was coming around. I think that was 2 years ago. And I had seen him play, and he was actually going to go sign with, I can't remember the team, but some other team, bigger names, whatever. And he ended up signing with me, which was cool. And we forged quite a team together. So I'm grateful. But there are those gems out there, and maybe Ukraine has 1, 2, or 3 of those guys. I don't know, but you might want to look at them. If nothing else, take a look at their film from this tournament and see if they hold water.
Well,
Yeah.
they do have 3 managers for next season on this team.
Oh, cool.
Didi Sol, Gigi Wallino is taking over Leicester, and JDM is taking over RB Leipzig.
Mm.
So,
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so maybe they can pluck some of their own players. Kudos to them for doing good. Before we move on from that group, I do have to mention my condolences, I guess, to our friend Lego, who got to the World Cup final last time with France. Obviously, missing a lot. The team wasn't bad. I didn't look at the roster beforehand, but when I did, they still had a bunch of good players on their team. It's just they lost the likes of Yoshi, Puyol, Dorsey, and it just might be how teams gel. They did have a lot of guys who had chemistry on this team. A couple of Liverpool lads, Chronic, I believe.
Darcy.
Mambo was there as well.
Yeah.
Darcy.
Mm-hmm.
But it just didn't happen for them, which sucks that they didn't go through because it definitely was a quality team that could.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just another case of just not having time, and you make one error on one game day, because they split it up differently this time. I'm pretty sure. Normally it's 3 game days of 2, versus this time it was 2 game days of 3. So if you have one bad game day, like, it's tough. Like, you're gonna struggle to come back.
tell me about it.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that soon. Moving on to Group C, Austria, I think, was the shoe-in for that group. I don't think anyone really expected them not to go through. That was a team with Khan, Cherry, Sleepy and Liking were there as well. Death, Locking Out, who formerly was the most expensive transfer in the league. Yeah. So they went through. I don't think anyone really thought anything else. But the second team, Greece, that was Dean's team. Dean always assembles a good team, so that was the expectation that those 2 teams would go through. But Slovenia, I believe, had 8 points, and Greece had 10, so it was pretty close. A little difficult for them, but Dean makes do with what he does, and he got through. Kudos to him. Group D, that was the Netherlands group. We had 4 wins and 2 draws. I guess people might have expected us to clean the group. But we went through again as expected. Norway made it through with negative goal differential. John, he assembled a good team. It was pretty hard to go at them, especially because they had a giant CB, literally named the unit. So corners came along and we got super scared, and it worked for him a couple times in friendlies. But the thing I want to tell you guys about, see your opinions. Spain finished the group with 0 wins. Now, I don't know if you guys looked at the roster or not, but you look at that roster, and I don't think you see 0 wins. I think you see contention for first place in the group. So, what do you guys make of them finishing dead last?
Well,
I mean, I could
go ahead.
I could tell you that for Jigsaw was looking for a handful of these players at one point. So there's no doubting the talent that's on the team. But the thing is it's internationals, and there are a lot of PCN's a very competitive league. There are a lot of people that like to win everything, and there's a lot of people also that really only care about the main PCN league. Everything else is just lanyap. And I'm not gonna say these guys didn't care about it, but I'm guessing that's what might have happened. They weren't going to be as sweaty as the other teams. They just kind of went out there and had a fun night. But from what I understand, though, I could be wrong if you guys have heard different. it's from what I heard, they had a bad, rough like first game, and then from there it ended up into like a bad first night, and then the second game night it was like, well, what? Fuck it,
So maybe that's what they were doing. What Cage was saying is they had a bad night and then couldn't recover. I mean, I don't know. I didn't see them play. Obviously, I love eKsI and Chicha. Even Bummy and Koof, I'm friends with. Slays is a teammate of mine, and Fern and I go way back. Which shout out to Fern. He might actually be one of those guys who was in League One last season that comes up and shows out, because I don't know if you've seen him play recently, but he's grown quite a bit as a player, which is cool.
Yeah,
cool
he's been balling. Yeah. Kudos to him.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I mean, it's a good team, but when you look at teams over a span of 7, 8 games, whatever, and you look at the reasons that they falter. And Cage, we talked about this on the first podcast, is when you're drawing games that you should win, or you're not scoring goals in games like this, you're not going to win. I mean, they had 4 draws. If you can't put the ball in the back of the net, you're not going to be successful. I know that's a John Madden quote, if there ever was one, but that's the bottom line. You're not gonna advance without that, and it doesn't seem like they scored. I mean, they didn't put in stats, so I can't look, so I don't see any stats for them. But bottom line, they didn't score goals.
And it sucks because I know that group. They're very close to me. A lot of close friends. They're good players. They're players that have been playing together as well. So chemistry just wasn't the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Just sometimes like you just you don't get the lucky draw. You build a good team of players who play together.
Yeah.
And you just it just doesn't happen.
Well, they scored a goal a game, like literally a goal every game. That's it.
Yeah.
That's not going to win a lot of games. Yeah, it's not going to win you a lot of games, despite the fact that you had eKsI in the D mid role and you had Fern right behind him, and Bummy even in the center. So that's surprising, but at the same time, those guys are not prolific goal scorers. So
what else do you really expect?
You would have been weighing heavily on Koof to carry that with Rick and maybe Carlos. So
Chicha as well was there, but
Chicha at outside mid, right? So but still, Chicha's not going to go out and have a season like you and get 18 goals or even 5, in a group stage. It's just not who he is. He's a great player.
Creativity you expect, with the players I had, you'd expect those guys to be able to create and give it to those front 2 to finish.
Yeah.
It just didn't pan out. Whatever happened, whatever went wrong, stuck with them. I know for a fact Bummy was mad about it because it's just you don't expect that from that team. But they got knocked out. We move. Group E. This was a close group overall. Bulgaria, they got first as expected by most. If you don't know their team, they had a good roster of solid players. A lot of people didn't know who Bulgaria was because it wasn't really like a I guess a ranking system for these teams. But they did have a good team. They only made it through by goal differential, and Denmark made it through as well. That's Master Roshi's team that he had. They got the second spot. He was slowly kind of making a name for himself as a manager. I know he wants a lot of teams. He managed Late Night League now with eKsiSLe there first. So I guess this was just another example of why he wanted to get a manager spot, which he did with Monaco.
Yeah.
And then Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland had a really good team. Lots of vets in the league, and it kind of sucked to see them get knocked out because I have a lot of friends on that team as well. This group I feel like could have gone either way, between Denmark, Northern Ireland, and Bulgaria. Just happened to fall in the draw of Bulgaria and Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
Group F, Poland. I don't think anyone really expected Poland to win. I'm not trying to bash any of the Poland guys, but it's just granted how this league goes. People just kind of expect the bigger names to go through, and they go through. This is what we wanted to get to with Kaz. Before I give it to him and let him explain his sitch, I'll explain it first. England had 3 out of 3 wins, 9 points after the first game day. And I'll just flat out say they choked. They dropped 8 points and they got knocked out of their group from first to out. So, Kaz, if you want to tell us, what happened and what was going on through the English camp.
Well, obviously after the first night, we were excited. I think we all thought we were going to go through. We were flying high, honestly. Like, who wouldn't? You know, but I think looking back, the fact that we had 3 wins kind of overshadowed the fact that we still allowed 5 goals that night.
Yeah.
And I know Jigsaw was aware because he tried to make some tactical changes before the second night. I just don't think we pulled them off properly. But that second night, I mean, we choked. We gave up 5 goals again. But that first night, everything Hinkley shot went in. I think we had 3 breaks on Portugal, and scored 2 of them. Portugal possessed the ball the entire game for the first night and the second night. The difference is our defense held the first night, and Hinkley scored the first night. I remember counting though that there was like 3 things that we had to do that night that could have gotten us out of the group that we just had to do. One of them was tie Poland and beat on scores in the 95th minute. Another one was beat Wales by 2 goals, and we beat them 1-0, having 14, I think, shots on goal, and allowing them to score on probably their only shot on goal. So I mean, we just failed. I think we had a solid team. We practiced a lot. We played in some BYOTs. We had chemistry. We had a game plan. But I think just the second night, maybe some of our inadequacies shown is all I
Yeah.
can say. We were getting ripped apart at the back, and we had nothing on the offensive side. So
Yeah, I mean, it
there
looks
was
like Hinkley scored 7 for you guys, and your next highest scorer had 2.
Mhm.
That's tough.
Yeah, it doesn't help when you have one source of goals. Not taking away from anyone on that team, obviously, but
No, 7 in the
in
group stage is great, man. I mean, 7 that's incredible.
What's funny about the first night is we played with one striker for the first 2 games because Menon lagged out twice. And then we moved Marcos, who's Mleda or something is his gamer tag.
yeah.
Yep. He played striker for the 3rd game.
So, are you blaming
And
Menon? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not
It's
blaming
an
Menon.
accurate conclusion. I think he's blaming you, man.
I'm
If
just
you're
kidding.
listening to
I'm
this.
just kidding.
Maybe not having a bot striker kind of whipped everybody to focus more, you know?
Could be. Yeah,
Um,
could be.
I know I can tell you that throughout that night there was a lot of back and forth about should we press, should we stay back, the whole we don't have to go get them mentality.
Hmm.
But when some people, and I know this from managing, when you say, "Hey guys, we don't have to go at them," they get complacent.
Yeah.
They don't know how to play on it and tuned in while
Mhm.
not taking chances. It's one extreme or the other, and maybe that's what it is. I mean, I could probably pick it apart all night. To be honest, the fact of the matter is, Poland and Portugal showed up on the crucial night, and they deserve to go through. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, before we move on, I do want to say, like, as a player, if it's ever like playoff scenarios or like a big game, the worst thing to hear is when your manager says, "Guys, we literally just need to do this," because
Mhm.
I just feel like that changes everyone's gameplay. Like you could be a top team and you hear those words and you just play completely different and you get destroyed. It's happened to me a couple of times, with Benfica actually. So it's tough. So managers just try to say the right things, and the players just kind of misinterpret it, and it just
Well, to be clear, Jigsaw did not say that.
oh.
I'll be honest. I don't want to throw that on him. He put his tactics out. He types them out before every game. He did tell us not to go forward too fast. Just watch
Yeah.
your 6. Make sure they don't get behind us. But
Mhm.
just kind of, if you go back and watch, you could tell we were playing scared. We were sitting off. We
Yeah.
were just letting people have the ball for a very long time, and then somebody would press, and the other guy wouldn't press with them, so then there's a ton of room, and then it's just chain reaction.
Yeah.
Just fumbling. Yeah.
And
I
let's
mean,
not forget, honestly, that night I thought Portugal was going to make to the finals the way they played.
mm,
I'm not taking anything away from Poland. They play the whole defense counter that and Bidon's good at it. But they won the group with it, so I'm not gonna knock it. But Portugal looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and Portugal's team, Sheik, Doss, like AJ, they have obviously that was probably one of the teams I probably should have mentioned earlier on that no one talked about that had a really good team on paper. Just a lot of good old school guys that I don't think people really thought about now, but obviously they made it through. Um, Obviously they played Italy in the round of 16. We'll get to that in a few. Talking about Italy, Group G, they won it. There wasn't really a surprise that they wouldn't. The only shock here was that, we mentioned this earlier. Belgium, the team everyone thought would be like the shocker of the tournament, gets knocked out. So I guess you could say they were a shock in one way. Chuck, Eric, I don't think Chuck was managing. I think Drextinho was managing, but you still have a a team with a lot of quality players and a quality manager at least. You'd expect, something more than being grouped, but
Mm-hmm.
like we've been saying, you never know what happens in these tourneys. Switzerland makes a surprise second place finish and they go through. And the final group, this is another under the radar team, Russia. They go on and win it, and Hungary barely gets the second spot, and Ireland,
Yeah, 5 draws.
which was
5 draws
yeah,
for Hungary. I mean,
yeah, I didn't even mention that. Like, Ireland has a bunch of my homies. I think, Capo, Tone, a couple other guys, Kayoshi. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if Kayoshi was there, but
Germany.
a lot of those LA Galaxy guys and friends were on that team. Uh, they get knocked out, and it's just I don't want to stay on this too long because we do have to move on to the round of 16 and all. But a team made it through with 5 draws. If that's not like, to me, that's hilarious. That's absolutely hilarious. Like, I'm not taking away anything from them because like if you look at their games, they were able to like they matched their team, and I don't know if like they scored first and then the other team would score, or like the other team would score and they'd make a comeback. Whatever it may be, they found a way to stay in the game. So considering they did that, granted it was 5 draws, the fact that they were able to do that, I mean, kudos to them. Like I said, I don't know how you get 5 draws and get through, but what do you guys think? That's still just stuck in my head how they only had 5 draws and made it through.
that's
Well, it's because the first place team tore apart everybody else. If
but they
if
didn't.
you've got
They had 2 draws. They had a loss, 2 draws, and 3 wins. The other team didn't lose, but they drew 5 times. How do you? I mean, that's insane.
well, I was just talking about the math, but
Well, I know, but they didn't. Nobody took the group by the reins. I mean, you look at it. Germany's the only team that laid down. Germany's the only team that was like, you know what? Actually, we don't want to play, which is surprising given that they have players that have been around, within PCN for a long time and are maybe formerly great players, but and are no longer at that echelon. But still, it's a good team of names. But yeah, they laid a goose egg. I mean, 11 goals
oh,
against. Oof.
if you look at Hungary versus Ireland, it's exactly what happened points wise with Portugal and England.
Mm-hmm.
They tied a game that we lost, and same thing with Hungary and Ireland. Uh, Ireland just had to win one of those games that they tied, or tie one of those games that they lost,
Yeah,
and they're through.
that's tough. That's tough. But again, if you have a 0 goal difference, you can't really expect to advance. And even if you advance, what does that mean for your team? Right? Does that mean, okay, good, we've finally gotten out of the group? Ask John how that feels. Like, what does it matter if you get out of the group and then get bounced immediately following because you don't have a team that's ready or prepared to move forward? I mean, I scoffed at 11 goals against, but there is a team, Wales, who had 20 goals against, which is absolutely abysmal, and that should be brought up. That's a pathetic showing. Did they even play? I don't know. They got a point. Same with Romania. To me, this is kind of why I don't want to manage in internationals anymore, is because putting together a team in internationals is a totally different feeling. It's a totally different vibe. You can walk in and just be a team and have fun together, and it might be successful as long as the players are great, right? But in league play, that is extremely rare to just put together 11 players that, oh yeah, we're just good, without structure, right? Yeah, you have your leads or formerly leads, Inter Milan, whatever you want to call them, young boys. They have been playing together for a really long time, so they don't have that natural leader there, right? You also have Orlando, who their manager didn't even show up half the time, right? Money wasn't there. Not saying he wasn't there as a manager, but he didn't play very often and didn't show up on their streams and all that, because I don't know why, but he wasn't there. So like those guys are good enough to carry that on their own and create that team dynamic on their own, because each one knows their role and performs it well. That doesn't happen when you have guys who have to join from different teams, because we have the cap on how many teams can how many players from a team can join. So without that natural chemistry, you see the teams that have a natural leader. And I'm not saying Italy suddenly got that in money. It's just, I feel like those guys, if you look at the Italy team, they have more of those players who were naturally gifted in that arena. And as did Netherlands, and we didn't come about, but those teams that already have that core that can build off of and get guys who buy in, that's great, because that's going to be successful, I think, at international level. For me, I'm not able to get guys to buy in that quickly, because for me, there's an ego issue. There are various different things you have to break down before you can get to that level, and I'm not willing to put in that work for a 3-week tournament.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have an idea.
Egos.
Why don't we randomly assign everybody a nationality?
You see, that brings up the case of I think we discussed this. I don't know if we discussed this on a cast or not, but that brings up the thing of, oh, I got stuck with this guy and I don't like him. I'm not gonna play.
Regions. We were discussing regions.
Yeah. So it's a matter of people, because there are a lot of people who have a lot of issues with each other, and they tend to avoid it. So on the off chance that they get us paired up, if you go about that method with that person, it'll just create a lot of issues, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a novel idea, and I wouldn't mind trying it for something. But when it comes to that, I mean, we don't want to lose sight of what we're here for, right? Which is to play the game we enjoy, sort of, with people that we enjoy or that we want to play with, or the style matches our style, whatever it is. There's a level of fun because nobody's getting paid for this. So if you all of a sudden start randomly assigning international teams to the players, or countries, whatever you want to call them, nationalities.
Well, absolutely.
I just don't think people are going to
PCN season
take that level.
Is so tense and stressful now that if we made international intense and stressful, I don't think people would play. It's a break. It's a fun tournament so guys can go play with their friends. We have the team rule just to kind of keep a semblance of competition going,
Well, I mean, it's a competitive environment, but I get what you mean. Yeah, you want to keep a little bit of parity. I don't think you want to say competition, because it's a competitive thing. It's just, you want to have some semblance of parity, whether or not it's, applicable, because you still have guys who, join from multiple different teams that are from, you have guys from Real Madrid linking up with guys from,
Atlanta, Orlando, Benfica.
Exactly. And then you get Italy. I mean, frankly, you have Fetz Dre from Real Madrid going to a place where, you have guys from Orlando and guys from former Leeds and whatever. And that's fine. I don't have any issue with that, right? That's awesome. But it's also where they want to play. It's who they want to play with. You want to get a taste of a different style, or a venture with people that you don't typically play with. And, and then you can do the Netherlands thing where you're playing with people that you've played with before, and it's a proven model. So I don't know. I think it's difficult to then rope them into a random assignment. Maybe if it's like give me your top 5. And of
Yeah.
those 5, then you are randomly given one of those 5. Then maybe. But, I don't know. That
Yeah,
might
something
be a way
along
to do
those
it.
lines would work. It sounds like a good idea. Anyway, back. I think that finished off that capped off our group stage talk. We got the playoff picture now. And we'll kind of just go through this and see if there's any shocks or not. So, first match, round 1, we had Italy and Iceland. Um, the only real surprise here was that the first game it was 1-1, but from what I heard, I think the second game Iceland tried sitting back a lot more and trying to shithouse their way through, but it didn't work because I saw a bunch of little talk from some of the Italy guys against those poor DQ guys. But they made a valiant effort. It sucks that they came up literally against one of the favorites. It would have been a good test to see if they won that game, but didn't happen. Um, Next game was Bulgaria Portugal. That game ended in total in a 4-4 thriller, and it went into PKs. And this thing went, what was that, 10-11? It says, yeah. Which is that must have been super stressful. I honestly would wish I saw that game because uh Bulgaria lost the first game 1-2, so they had to come back against Portugal, then bring it into ET, and then they had to go through a 10-11 PK shootout. Uh, which I personally suck at penalties, so I could only imagine how stressful that would have been for them. So that looks like it would have been fun. Uh, Netherlands against Greece, a fairly simple game. Nothing really too crazy happened. Finished 1-1 the first leg. Netherlands came out 1-2-0 the second leg. Austria and Switzerland. Austria was the team that took out Netherlands, and we'll talk about that in a second. They lost their first game against Switzerland, and then it was a 1-2 game. Then they came out and absolutely battered them. The second game was 7-2. So I guess I think Cherry was the manager, if I'm not mistaken, uh, or a co-manager. But I guess that's the game where you can see them being like, okay, guys, wake up and let's kill it. They did. Uh, Croatia Norway was a game I said I'd want to watch because Croatia had the most goals for, and Norway playing against them was one of the most defensive teams I've seen in this tournament. So I thought it would be a good showing, and it was. But Croatia obviously wins that 4-0. Russia and Sweden. Sweden comes out of that 2-3. Uh, Ukraine and Hungary tie the first game 1-1. Then Hungary goes on to win the next game 1-0. Poland and Denmark, I believe Poland goes through 5-4, and that was pretty much round 1. Uh, Round 2, Kaz, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
but
talk to
Poland
you.
lost the first game 2-0, right? In that first night?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
they
then
lost the first
Oh,
game.
whoa! I didn't even look at that. What am I doing?
So
Jeez.
that's why I was like, wait, what? You're not even gonna
So
look.
they scored. Wow.
They scored 5 in the
I'm
second
sorry.
game. Is that
Yeah,
true?
I'm sorry for overlooking this. They won that game 5. Wow.
I'm
Yo,
looking
let
at
me
it.
look at
Hold
this.
on, let me look
Yeah,
at
I was
this.
about to say, me too. I was gonna look at the statistics of this. I mean, how did that? Who did what? Because oh, they might have not had stats put in, but wow, they did. Yeah. Jeez. How did I overlook that? Wow.
That's wild. So I mean, that
kudos
hell
to
of a
them.
comeback for Poland, down 2-0 on aggregate, and they concede 2 goals, but they score 5. I mean, that is.
That's one of the I think that's on par with the Austria Switzerland game, telling your team to wake up.
Yep.
Wow, that's
Yep.
kudos to Poland. I didn't even
I mean,
look at that.
Poland
Wow.
scored 5 against Wales as well in the group stage. So
Yeah, but Wales, no offense to Wales, I don't want to trash it.
no, I know,
said,
I
they
know.
conceded
I'm just saying
20, so-
it's not the first time they scored 5 or put 5 up in a game during the tournament. Is all.
Portugal, I'm sure it must have been a close match regardless. You know, Exile, I'll come to you about this game, the Netherlands Austria game. We both played in this, but I kind of want to see your take on what happened. We lost the first one 1-2, and then the second one we lost 1-3. So, or 2-3. So, what happened? Do you think? What went wrong?
Well, I mean, to me, it's a stylistic change or difference, right? When you're talking about the team that we played against with Austria, and obviously I have a huge bias toward the Netherlands, but credit where credit's due. Austria came out and they put goals up. They capitalized on key mistakes. But they definitely did a bunker counter type mentality and gameplay, and it's a way that those guys have played, and it works apparently in international tournaments. It does not work when Torino did it to us, and I called them out and gotten to a video or whatever.
The
but
meme.
yeah, I mean, but it definitely worked. We had, and to be fair, we had moments that were just individual moments of stupidity and just bad play defensively. I mean, and it's not like they were doing anything special offensively to break us down. It was one LBY and like our CB on the far side may get caught out, or I got twisted around two players or whatever, and it was just it's shitty. It's just a shitty look. I mean, I didn't have my best game day, and defensively we conceded far too many goals to be successful. So.
And that was on the defensive side. I also don't want to take away from Khan. Khan probably had a tournament to remember. He came up huge for them.
Mm-hmm.
He made some crazy saves. We had like over 20 shots across those two legs. And how many did we only score? 3? So, kudos to him. He kept them alive seriously in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's a great goalkeeper. So, I don't want to take anything away from him. He does a great job. And, to me, he's been a standout for that team, whether it's Torino or this. He was a standout. So kudos to them. Like I said, I'm not bitter about it. I think they ended up doing what was necessary to win, and we didn't flat out. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I agree. If a team does what they got to do to win, you can't take anything away from them. Like, you do what you got to do to win in these games, and they did. They found a way to win both times. So kudos to them, and they did end up going into the semis against Italy. We'll get to that in a sec. Croatia, Russia. This just shows how dominant Croatia's been. If you look at their first game, it was 4-0 in aggregate. Okay, so across 2 games, they didn't concede any, scored 4. They won the first game 3-0, and it finished on aggregate 8-1. So that means that second game, they won 5-1. That means across the 2 games, they scored 12 goals and conceded 1. Which is crazy to me. Like, that's just, if that doesn't show how dominant they are as a team, like, we were just talking about the foot sweats and their offensive ability. That just also shows their defense, a part of that team, how strong they were. Then, coming to this last quarterfinal game, Poland against Hungary, it must have been a good match to see,
I mean,
honestly.
did you just say 12? I mean, it was 3-0 and then 5-1.
No, I mean, across the 2 games.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Or
across
4,
what 2 games? Oh, yeah, you're talking about against
4.
Norway as well.
4.
Okay. I just want to make sure our listeners weren't like, Cage doesn't understand how aggregate scores work, so
or math. Yeah,
that's a problem.
My bad. I can't.
No,
count,
you're
guys.
good, man. You're good. I just was confused.
Yeah, and then Hungary, Poland, 2 games, and across the 2 games, only 1 goal was scored. So I'd assume that those were close games, but Poland squeaked it out. I think when you look at the semifinals right now, you had Italy against Austria and Croatia against Poland. I think Poland is like the Iceland of real life. You didn't expect that Iceland team when they made that Euro run to go far, and I think that's what Poland was here. There was a team that I don't think anyone really thought of, and they made a run. They made a hell of a run. They topped their group, beat a Denmark team they probably weren't expected to win. They made that comeback, ended up beating Hungary, and then they come up against Croatia, and it looks like they gave them a good fight. Only 1-0 to a team that, what is this? Okay, so this is 12 plus their 16 goals in the group. From a team that scored 28 goals in this whole competition, and you only hold them to 1. I mean, you must be doing something right. So kudos to them to making it that far. Croatia does win that game, and I'll ask you about this matchup, the Italy-Austria matchup. After that first game, did you think like Austria would have a chance to come out and win? Because we came up against them, we saw their gameplay, and they held Italy at the first. Like, did you think that they had a chance to go through?
Oh, I mean, yeah, like I said, they have a very interesting play style, and knowing the players on both of those teams, like ours and theirs, we play also a very different play style, which is very, very press oriented. And anytime you get a press oriented team against a team that likes to bunker and counter, it is a dynamic play with a lot of through balls, external passes to spread the team and then go long, right? And
Yeah.
so anytime you're in that scenario where it's a win or go home scenario, like that scummy style of play, whatever you want to call it, can work. So if you're tied 2-2 going into a second leg, right? The odds are that the other team has a chance. But it looks to me like Italy stepped up. They figured out what had happened. They adjusted. Something I don't think we did
Yeah.
very well. We didn't
Yeah.
adjust to what was happening. We kept trying the same things, and I think that goes back to, you know, the team that we were on were just so confident in what was happening, and didn't feel we needed to adapt. Offensively, because take away nothing from how bad the defense was against Austria, right?
Yeah.
But when you talk about offensively, we weren't good enough,
Yeah.
and I mean, when it came down to it, you also can't concede, as many goals. But whatever. That I don't want to get caught up in that too much. But it looks like they didn't score again in the second leg. Let me see here. Let me double check. No, I'm confused. See, the scores are all messed up on the back end. I don't know what happened here, but this is kind of frustrating. It looks like the people who put in the scores didn't do it correctly, but I think they won the second leg 2-0, but it looks like Italy is showing 3-2 on the second leg. So I don't know. Maybe was it 5-4?
It was. I'm pretty sure I remember that second game when Jason was updating everyone. So I remember him talking about how the game was super close. Um, I
Okay.
know Austria put up a fight that second leg, so it might have been 5-4. But regardless,
Yeah. Okay, so it was 5-4 on aggregate. They scored 2. Death Row and Shadow Demon scored the goals for Austria, and then Money, Andressi, and Slick Joey scored for Italy. So kudos. I mean, Real Madrid showing out. I love that. But yeah, so it was a 5-4 aggregate score. That is nutty. That is nutty.
yeah, like one of the games, like Austria again, like this wasn't a team like Poland where people were surprised that they got here. It's just the path that they had to come through. They were losing first against Switzerland, then ball out. They come up against the World Cup winners. They find a way to win.
Mm-hmm.
Then you come up against another team that, like, out of all the teams, was the literally other team to win it, and you put up a good showing.
Yeah.
5-4. Like, I'm sure that game could have gone either way if they played something differently. But
Imagine
Italy.
knocking out the two heir apparents, right? Imagine
Yeah.
on your way to a
Like,
final. Like, do you not go into that final? And I mean, I'm
pumped.
in all honesty, they probably would have lost the final because those two games are like finals themselves. So
Yeah.
that would be tough. But
straight.
it's easy to drop your head. But I mean, if you buzzsaw through two teams like they did, or almost did, I guess I should say. I mean, it's hard to lose that confidence too. So you never know. It's a crapshoot.
But that just goes to show, like, that Torino team, I'm sure, if they assemble majority of what they had on the Sasha team, it'll be a team to watch for sure. If, like, they're able to get the goals, play
Mm-hmm.
the defense. So, Torino will be a team to look out for. But
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously,
I can
coming.
speak. I
Oh,
can
hello?
speak to just because I know a bunch of the players. I didn't want to
Oh.
interrupt Joe. Having such a good conversation. When I was trialing for Austria, you could tell they were prepping for this season. And I know locked up, I talk to him about what he's doing the seasons all the time. Had a nice little conversation with Cherry, about what he's doing next season, and I think that's a great start. They were very competitive last season, very good. Let's just put it that way. They were very good. They were the team that did. I think they were the surprise team last season. And you know, then they go and they have a good Euros, find a couple more players to plug those holes,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously by, playing the teams that they played, the game against Netherlands, they can analyze that and go forward and say, all right, this is what we need to do to go up against these teams. And so let's see.
Yeah, Torino will be a team to look out for. At least this new version of them, but we'll see what Cherry puts together.
Yeah. Okay.
Finally in the final, Croatia, Italy, and I personally didn't think it would be like this. My favorites coming into this were Italy.
Uh-huh.
I didn't think it would be a 4-1 game. With what the Foot Sweats have been doing in this whole tournament, to only show out with and this just shows. I don't know if this shows how good the Italy defense is and how good veteran defenders are in this league, like Pep, Fets, etc., or if it's just a lack of Foot Sweats being confident in a big game such as the finals. I'm not too sure what it was, but they didn't find a way to win. They only got one, which is not what they're used to doing in this tournament. So
Well, let me play devil's advocate here, and let's do some hypotheticals. I will
alrighty.
probably get shit from Foot Sweats for saying this, but is it possible you're giving them far too much credit?
Oh, I don't
You
think
know,
so. I
well,
definitely
they
don't.
finished mid-table in League One last season.
Yeah, but then you look at after what they've done, right?
Okay, but it's
Granted from that.
BYT.
No, I'm not only talking about BYTs. I had a feeling that would be said. Granted from that late night, I think they're second right now, contending for first, if I'm not mistaken. I know they're up there, top three for sure.
How
And
many
this,
teams have solid backlines in late night league? Their usual backlines that have been together.
not a lot, but you have to also look at it. There are a lot of top teams that we've known, like Most Hated and Cartel. I'm not trying to bag on any of these teams that have struggled to put goals against a lot of these new come late night teams. You know, and these are players that have been in the league and been consistent, right? Some of the best attackers that have been spread out among these teams are still struggling to score. So I don't think you can take anything away from them. And if this doesn't prove how good they're getting, I don't know what is, because this literally is against good teams. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't think.
Well, we talked
Well,
in TOTS
yeah,
about how goal heavy League One was and how it was just an absolute. I mean, all those guys scored tons of goals, right?
yeah,
And then so obviously those guys are capable goal scorers, and BYOT, they're killing people. Super League is gonna have multiple teams with very organized backlines, and if we go back and look at all the Euros and look at each backline, probably the only two teams that had a backline that knew each other was probably Netherlands and Italy.
yeah.
And I'm sure we could probably do a similar situation with late night league. I know there are a lot of usuals that play together, but I also know a lot of teams have guys that are only wanting to play one night a week, you know? So I don't know, I'm just saying we we let's go a little farther with this before we start saying, that they're the next big thing.
Well,
That's fair.
let's analyze the stats though. Look at the stats that you're seeing. We have one goal scored for Croatia, right? That goal is scored by RVP. Okay. Do you know who else shot on that team during the final? Who else had a shot
No.
on a shot? Not even a shot on target. I'm saying a shot.
Yeah.
Large Mighty Cow had two. I'm guessing from corner kicks,
Corners. Yeah.
and the last one is World Tails. Tails had a shot, not on target, but a shot.
Just a shot.
RVP had 4 of their shots on target and 6 just shots in general, scoring 1. That tells me he was the focal point. That's what everybody was being pushed toward because he's the one taking shots, and that's okay. I don't have any problem with one guy being the guy who takes the shots. But if you're not spreading the ball around, if you're not finding the extra pass in a final, you know what I mean. That's not going to work. You have to be more patient. And
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to, I see what you're saying, Kaz. I wasn't. I guess I could have misworded it or said it differently, but coming into this final, at least,
mhm.
this result right here is a good showing of where they're at and just the limits that they could peak at. I think this tournament and what they've done so far in the league are good examples of what could be if they keep getting used to this. Obviously, this was a test where to see where they're at. They're coming up probably. If it wasn't Netherlands, it was Italy. So you're coming up against a team full of Super League winners, who a cup winner, like just winners in this league, who know what they're doing, good players. So, them losing, I don't think is hurts them too much. Because if anything, it just, it'll make them better. Because they'll see what they have to do against these top players, and
Mhm.
it'll shape them up, I guess.
I don't know.
Oh, absolutely.
I
I
don't
agree
know.
with all of that.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm just interested to see. I'm very proud of the way PCN has become. And I don't think it's a league that somebody can just walk into the top half of Super League and just own it.
I mean, they still are in League One with Sporting, so we'll have to see what they do there. I think the expectations are high now, especially after this. Like, and they talk themselves up, of course, and they've been showing up from what
Mhm.
they've been saying, but this next season is gonna like really determine where they're at compared to all these other teams, I think.
Yeah.
And do they want to play that sweaty?
Yeah.
Well, they
You
said
know?
they're in, man. They said they're all in. They love it, which is good. I'm glad. But shout out to Fetz for being man of the match. I mean,
Yeah.
8 for 11 passing, had that diving header goal, and had 7 possessions won, 3 lost. The dude was a monster. 4 tackles, 3 interceptions. I mean, that's a monster game at the biggest stage for internationals, other than World Cup. So
Yeah, talk about
good
big
for
game
you,
player
Fetz.
15.
Can't wait to see you next season.
Do also have to give credit where credit's due. Money's just been a trophy collector. I think he's won in the last couple seasons. He's won a couple Super League titles. He won the
Mhm.
Copa Victoria. He won this now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
I
they
think
did.
he's
They
starting to
did they win
become.
the Copa Victoria? I don't know that they
They
did.
did.
Did they?
They did. Orlando did. Yeah. It's just he's a winner. If he doesn't
Hmm.
do it, he assembles teams that help him do it.
No, I mean,
Uh,
I don't know if he won it. I know Orlando won it.
I mean, I'm
Uh,
just saying, like, he puts together teams that win. Is
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah, yeah.
essentially I'm trying to say.
Except for cups. That's what's hilarious about that team is that
I mean, I'm pretty sure Orlando fucks around in cups.
yeah,
Like a couple
maybe,
times you'll see the stream. They got CM9 up top. They got like
maybe,
Lonnie
but
playing
maybe they
22.
need to not do that because the cups are important. I mean, if you're only going for Super League and you've only won it twice over the last 5 seasons,
Has it been fun? I mean, who have been the last couple winners?
so it's been Young Boys
Yeah,
slash
that's one.
Inter Milan,
Then
and
Orlando won.
then Orlando won, then Young Boys, then Orlando won, then Real
And then
Madrid won.
you guys. Yeah,
Yep.
last 5 seasons.
So I mean, it's been Young Boys and Orlando back to back, or whatever you want to call that team. I don't care. The Leeds guys, the whatever. Those guys have been great, as have been Orlando. But if you look at the cups, Super Cup, Leeds slash Young Boys have won it twice in a row, I think.
Yeah.
They also won it a third time, I think. Back. No, we beat them in the final. Sorry, tough. S12, yeah, season 12, we beat them in the final for Atlanta, and then we won it, and then we have 2 Royal Cups back to back, a PCN Cup. But you know what? They haven't won. Orlando has not won any other cup. Like that's the one thing when I look at CM9 is like, how does he not have all the cups? They won a Community Shield and a Copa Victoria in the last year,
And it's just because they
and
don't
2
care.
Super Leagues. To be
which,
fair,
you
to
know,
be fair. Yeah, maybe they don't, but that to me that's a black mark on their record, historically speaking. You know, if you're talking about that, you want to be a dynasty for that team, then you've got to dominate. That's not domination. I'm sorry, but two titles in 3 years. That's great and fantastic, but that's not a dynasty. That to me, come on, no. What Leeds has done is way more relevant to the league than what Orlando had done, and that's crazy because they don't give a shit about the league. The Leeds guys, they don't care.
Yeah.
So for me, that annoys me as both a manager in the league, but also as an owner of the organization. But at the same time, like if you're that good, win everything. And Real Madrid should have this past season, and we did not. We didn't win any cups except for Super League, and to me that's annoying. Because we really should have had at least a double or a treble of some kind. Maybe not Champions League or whatever we call it, Royal Cup or Super Cup, but still, I think we should have had something. But we didn't. We choked out in the cups because guys get complacent in those later games, and it's tough to keep people engaged. And
when the night you win a title, you have another.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't want to go back to that because Benfica beat us hands down. But that's just how it is. And again, I don't really want to make this about me or my team, but when I look at that, you're talking about money and his accomplishments. Yeah, he does win. I mean, he wins. And that's awesome, except cups for whatever weird reason. And maybe it's because they screw around. But kudos to them for winning the title.
If they care, I think he could very easily tell that Royal team, okay, guys, let's win this. Like, I feel like if they wanted to, they could.
Yeah, if you want to, why even show up if you're not trying to? I don't understand that mentality. To me, it's like
maybe they are trying to win, but they want to do it in like a different fashion. I think it's just a sense that they don't care if they lose, type thing. Not they don't care if they win.
I don't. That does not compute with me.
If you don't care.
To me that doesn't compute. How do you not care? How do you play in something that is competitive and you don't care? To me, as a competitor, that is not even in my repertoire. I cannot even fathom it. To think that that's a thing. To be like, well, I'll show up for this, but I'm not going to try my best. Why not? I should be mopping the floor with everybody. Everybody. If I am that good and my team's that good, we should be mopping the floor with everyone.
Hey, then maybe this will be like a call out, I guess, to Money in them to see if they care, if they can just sweep.
Yeah, that's what I want, is to piss off the guys that are coming up with a new team. No, I don't really need that on me right now, but but no, it'd be
nice to see them.
Yeah,
compete in them
for sure. No, I want the league to be as competitive as possible. So there's that. But one person we did not mention this entire time in the final is Bills. Expect Bills had 2 goals and a key pass, and even though he was not the man of the match, he still led his team.
I think he had 5 goals in 5 games for Italy too.
Yeah,
so
that's killer.
A guy that people think is washed or just hasn't been as active as he used to be, he's still good. God. For all you guys who
I did not call him washed. Bills, I did not call you washed.
Not you, I know. Bills know I love him.
Hasn't had the time to play, I know that, because he was on Monaco.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a good player. He still is. So, some people just don't pick him up because they don't think he's at his best. But, I think whenever he gets the time and he cares, he can still ball out.
Mm-hmm.
So, good job to Bills. Good job to Italy. Congrats to them for winning this whole thing.
Yeah.
We've been saying the whole time it's either Netherlands or Italy. They showed out. They were the top dog. Kudos to them.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, we'll look to wrap this up. Do you guys have anything to say about the Euros? Any closing thoughts?
I was very impressed with, while we do have the standouts like Italy, that everybody pretty much after Netherlands was out said they're going to win. I'm very happy with how far it's come. I think this is the first one where we didn't have a team completely not want to implode and not finish the tournament. So to me, that's progress.
Yeah,
that every team, from what I understand, I don't know a team that had trouble putting a team together.
Yeah.
They may have not gotten all the players that they wanted, but fielding a team and having 11 for each game, I haven't heard of any teams that have problems with that. And that's progress for me as a league, because it tells me every team thought they had something to get out of it. And that's what you don't want. You don't want teams that, okay, we'll go play in the tournament, but for what? You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say in parting is, give credit to Oswald and Lego Dog for the contributions 100%. That they had in setting this up, because, Kaz and I have been going crazy over the last 2.5 seasons leading up to season 15, and it was honestly some of the most stressful times of my life, which is crazy to think considering how old I am. But having Dorsey gone and then coming back and all that shit that happened, it put a lot of pressure on Kaz and I, and I wanted to take some time with my wife and spend time with family, and those two stepped up in a very big way and were able to create a tournament that I think went off without much of a hitch. So give a lot of credit to them because I had nothing to do with it. You know, I helped where I could, but it was them.
I did like, how do y'all do this normally? That kind of stuff. But you know, with a little help from the other admins who we gave a much needed break as well, Lego and Oswald really didn't. They took it and ran with it. A lot of
Yeah.
people think, uh, you know, if you're thinking out there that they were just the front guys and didn't actually do any work, that's not the case.
No,
You
I
know, they
heard they did a lot.
literally took it and did it all on their own. So that's very impressive for me.
Yeah, so big shout out to Lego and Oz for stepping up when it needs to do and producing a really, really well done international competition. Thank you guys for that. With those closing thoughts, though, that will be the end of episode 4 of the PCN podcast. Thank you guys all for listening and watching. Uh, we will have more to come, so please stay tuned in the next coming weeks. If you guys have any concerns, anything you like, dislike, please feel free to DM me or Exile or Kaz. But yeah, with that being said, it's been the PCN podcast with your co-host Cage, Exile, and Kaz, and we'll catch you guys later.
See ya.